All right, everybody, let's talk about the different styles of yoga. In this beginner series, I want to just give you as much information without overwhelming you because starting anything new can be scary. And so let's talk about the different styles of yoga. The foundation of all yoga is a term that looks like it says hatha, Hatha, but it's really pronounced hatha, which means sun and moon, which essentially means the opposites, left and right, inhale, exhale, sun and moon, off and on. And so when we think about hatha yoga, it is the postures that include both the front of the body, the back of the body, the left side, the right side, and it creates balance in the body. So Hatha yoga then became all these different versions, but the basis of all the asanas come from that foundational term that we refer to in yoga as Hatha yoga. Now, from Hatha, there's been a bazillion different kinds of yoga that have been developed over the time, and even some crazy stuff that we see in our Western world, like paddleboard yoga, hot yoga, Bikram yoga, which is 26 set postures in an extremely hot room. But if you took all of that away and you just went down to the foundation, it would be Hatha yoga. And so in Hatha yoga, we tend to hold the postures for maybe 8 to 10 breaths. There's not a fluid transition between one posture or one shape to the next. You do the shape, you do the posture, then you get out of it, and then you enter into the next one. But there's not fluidity like we see in Vinyasa, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So Hatha yoga is a slow paced, hold the poses for a while, and really get to learn where your body is in space. Now, Iyengar yoga, which was founded by, the famous yogi BKS Iyengar, and his style of yoga is hatha yoga, but then using props to help the body go into alignment. He was very alignment based. So he taught how to put the body in the shape using perfect alignment. So you're using a chair, you're using a wall, straps, blocks, all kinds of tools to create those lines of alignment. It's incredibly slow. Again, no fluid transitions between poses. You go in, you hold it, you come out, you go to the next one. And then we have what's called yin yoga, which is typically done completely on the floor. You use props sometimes. You don't have to use props like a block or a bolster. But the basis of yin, which which I kind of like because our world is so active, right? We're constantly consuming information. We're working, we're talking, we're driving, we're multitasking. It's a lot of yang energy, a lot of that active energy. And so yin is very introspect. It's like taking the doors and closing them and going inside. In a yin practice, you will hold the poses for 3 to 5 minutes, which doesn't sound like a lot until you're in it. And then you're thinking it's the longest 3 minutes of your life. So imagine being seated on the floor, legs extended out straight, toes up. So it's active. And then you are forward fold, belly towards the floor. Now, it doesn't sound like a big deal unless you have to hold it for 5 minutes. So the idea of yin is that you learn to be okay in the uncomfortable. When we go into a yin pose, when we enter into a yin posture, we get there, we get our body set. And then we refine it a little bit. We get the wiggles out. We maybe change it by using a block or maybe changing the way our glutes are connected to the floor by adjusting the backside. And then we commit and we're stuck there. And the idea is that, when we think of yoga, we think of it, it truly is a practice. It's nothing that you achieve, it's nothing that you do for perfection. It's a practice that really lends itself to teach us how to live our life. And we talked about that in the tip section of that bicycle wheel. But yin is really where we look at where do our thoughts go when we're stuck in stillness? Can we redirect our thoughts to the breath? Can we stay steady, grounded, and okay in uncomfortable? And then we apply that to our life. And we learn through yin that everything is temporary. Everything is temporary. So when we're in the pose and it's uncomfortable and we're a mess, we have to remember that it's temporary. So yin is a fun place to go. And now yin physically works with that connective tissue. And connective tissue is sort of meshy in its structure. Different than muscles that are long strands, connective tissue is this mesh. And so when we hold a posture for a long time, the theory with yin is that the connective tissue becomes more malleable. It doesn't stretch because it's not made of structure that stretches, but it becomes more fluid, I guess. And so the connective tissue that goes around the joints, that's what we're looking for in yin, is to support and make that tissue a little bit more able to be not loose. We don't want loose connective tissue, but just more movement in the connective tissue. Yin is a great practice. I encourage people who are beginning to get sort of a foundation of postures, where you are in space in your body, how does sensation show up for you, and then try a yin class. Because we look for sensation in the body. When we're in a forward fold, we should be feeling the back of the body, the lower back, into the hamstrings. And so if you're brand new and you've never done any posture, it might be too much to jump into a yin class. We think because it's on the floor, it's going to be easy or gentle, and yin's not necessarily that. So get kind of a foundation and then try a yin class. And there's a couple yin practices on my YouTube channel that you can try out in your own space. And then we go to restorative yoga. Now, restorative yoga is often misconstrued as yin because it is on the floor and we use props. But yin is different in that it's an active practice, where restorative, we're completely letting go. We are laying on pillows. We have blankets on us. We have ice or iPads. Maybe they're iced or maybe they're heated, but typically you have a cold ice pad on your eyes, and then you have a heated pad on your forehead, and it's like going to the spa. Now, I've heard through some different places that a restorative yoga practice is the equivalent to 8 hours of solid sleep. So it's totally a restore. It resets the body, it resets the nervous system. Now, a restorative practice should be done once a week. It's great to do in the evening, after, a couple hours after a meal or before a meal, and then plan to have a quiet evening. Don't consume a lot of television, just kind of slip into bed. Restorative is great if you're recovering from something and you're able to get on the floor and just let your body let go. Restorative is a great practice for that. So I recommend a restorative practice once a week, maybe twice a week, depending on the level of stress that you have in your life. But it's a great way to just disconnect from living and just relax into yourself. It's incredibly relaxing. Now we're going to go into vinyasa. Vinyasa is probably the most popular Western style of yoga in the Western world that you'll see. You see it a lot in studios. It's often called a flow class or a vinyasa class. And vinyasa is where we link the breath with the posture. So, for an example, we would inhale to reach, exhale to bend, inhale to extend, exhale to reach, inhale to return, exhale to reach, inhale to return, exhale, lower your arms. Everything is choreographed by the breath. And it becomes meditative. Once we get into the vinyasa flow, we can find this sort of dance meditation type comfort, and all of the thoughts go away because we're just simply thinking about the inhale, the exhale, the extension, the surrender, the opening, the closing, and it becomes a great escape from the mental mind. Vinyasa, however, can for some people be very chaotic, especially if the teacher is cueing you to go pretty quick. It can sound like this: inhale, right leg lifts, exhale, step it through, inhale, rise, exhale, fold, inhale, open, exhale, close. And so if you're brand new, you don't even know where to breathe, where to open, where to close, and it can be frustrating, especially if you go to a studio as a beginner and people who are seasoned yogis are flailing around on their yoga mat. it can be overwhelming. So I don't recommend beginners go to a vinyasa class until you have a foundation of just sort of the basic things that yoga teachers say, the way that we call out poses, things like that. Now, I'm a type of teacher, I don't speak Sanskrit. I don't even speak in terms of calling a pose by the name that we have determined it to be in the Western world. Rather, I describe where you are in space. So if I were to explain or cue you in a very common posture, in Sanskrit, it's called Tadasana. In English, it's called mountain pose. In describing it, it would be create a tall spine. On your in breath, extend your arms to the sky and let your shoulders fall down your back. Exhale. This is mountain pose. Now, I didn't tell you come to mountain pose. I described where you are in space. That's my teaching style. And it goes through the way that I teach in the community in my adaptive yoga classes. It's the way I was trained. It's just how I believe it's more accessible to all people to describe your body where you should be in space. Now, if you go to a vinyasa class, it is likely that the teacher will just be simply calling out the names of the poses. So if you don't know them, you can get lost and feel those creeping feelings of not enough come into your practice. And like I said in video 1 with the tips and tricks, competition and comparison have no place in a yoga practice. So find a class or a video where you feel that you can listen to the teacher, discover in yourself the shape that you want to create in your body, and follow along and not get to that place where you think, I'm never going to be able to do that, or I can't do that. It's not about that. It's about exploration of your body. So I have taken vinyasa and pared it way back to gentle flow. And the way that I teach a gentle flow, it's similar to a vinyasa, but I slow down the breath, I add in extra breaths. You get the same transition from posture to posture that's flowing versus hatha, which is do the pose, get out of the pose, go to the next one. A gentle flow would look something like this. Inhale, reach. Exhale, bend. Inhale, extend. Exhale, reach. It's softer. It's a little slower. I help you to slow down the breath, which helps the nervous system feel better. And I just don't teach poses that are standing on your head or extreme back bends. I don't believe in that, especially in a home practice without somebody supporting you, helping you, monitoring you, watching you. It's just not what you'll see on my channel. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but my style is an incredibly gentle yoga practice. So just to recap the styles, the main styles, there's one more style in which I was trained many years ago. And Ashtanga is a beautiful hatha practice. It's very deliberate. It's a system. I don't want to say it's a recipe card, but it's a systematic sequence of poses where you hold the poses for 3 to 5 breaths. It's very focused. It's if you're having a lot of thoughts in your head and you can't seem to get settled, Ashtanga is a great practice because it is incredibly deliberate. On the other side of being deliberate, it is very, very hard. And so again, like as a beginner, I would look for things like a beginner class, a gentle class, a restorative class, a chair class, something just to get your feet wet so that you don't immediately recoil and say, I can't do that. So we have Hatha yoga, which is the foundation of all yoga postures. We have yin, which is on the floor using some blocks, supports, but it's active, it's introspective, it's quiet. We have restorative, which is like a nap. It's amazing. We have vinyasa, which is linking the breath and the body. It can be fast. The breath can get swift and quick. The heart rate can rise. It's typically done in a heated room. It's often challenging. Many classes have it what they call a peak pose, where you build a sequence up to this magical ta-da and only 1% of the population can do it. It's not my favorite style, if you've picked up on that. And then you have just a gentle class, which is my favorite. And then, of course, chair. So those are the styles of yoga. And then as we continue on this series, we'll go through a little bit of those styles, just posture by posture, not a full class of yin or a full class of restorative, but I do want to show you different ways that those postures of hatha can be changed up to fit the style of yoga. So we might do a pose that could be a yin pose, but then I'll show you the same pose in a vinyasa style, if that makes sense. All right, so that's it for styles of yoga. If you missed the first one, go back and watch the tips and tricks, what you need, how you need to get in the mindset for practicing yoga, what yoga is, what yoga isn't. Now we have the styles of yoga, and now the next video will be just the basics of a yoga class, some lingo that the teacher might say that you're not sure what that means, like breathe into your belly. I'll break that down for you. And then the final video in this series will be just a 20-minute basic gentle flow class. All right, I will see you next video. All right, take care. Bye.